Good afternoon, everyone. It is Monday, the 26th of September. Oh my gosh, can you believe that this is where we are in the year? Absolutely insane. Excuse me, it's the Monday gremlins. All right, so let's have a look and see what is going on in the market at the moment. It's so important to track what's happening. There certainly is a lot, and hopefully today we can address, I'm not sure that we can sufficiently answer this question, but we'll certainly give you, based on what the facts are and the data, who's going to benefit from today's real estate market. Is it buyers or is it sellers? I'd be interested to find out what you're thinking at this point in time. So feel free to put that in the chat. And by the way, if you've got any questions, we'd be honored to take those and respond to them once we finish this. So just pop something in the chat. And hey, by the way, I'm Jennifer Tim. I am the owner of the Welcome Home Global Group, powered by Keller Williams. And we are so honored to bring you factual information every single Monday so that you can make the right decisions for you and your family when it comes to your real estate goals. Let's have a look at what's happening nationally, and then of course we'll take it down into Southern California and then into some of our local cities. Of course, the big conversation at the moment is what is happening with inflation. We're all feeling it. Had a conversation this morning with Karen Land, who's on my team, and we were just talking about how going grocery shopping, we're definitely feeling and seeing the difference to our pocketbooks when we're doing that essential grocery shopping. So that is the top conversation, and that's what's driving the Feds to address what is happening with inflation. So how did they respond this past week? Well, as expected, the Fed fund rate was increased by another 75 basis points. So we're now sitting at 3.25%. What they also did, and this was a meeting of the Feds in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, beautiful part of the world. If you haven't been there, highly recommend going. The Feds released a dot plot chart that implied that they're looking at another 100 to 125 basis point increases over the rest of the year. And what has been put out there is another 75 points in November, and then followed by 50 in December. The Feds are not planning on selling their current mortgage-backed investments, which definitely helps with a little bit of stability. And the Feds will meet again in November and December. And then, of course, we'll see whether they go ahead with their plan to increase. So what's interesting about all of this at the moment is basically why. And I am not a scholar by any means of economics. This is something I'm learning, and boy, this year is creating an opportunity for us to learn more and more. Bottom line, what the Feds are doing is they have to do everything in their power at the moment to try and, reduce the rate of inflation. And for some things that they're doing, it feels like it's really counterintuitive. And you know what? The sort of general sentiment at the moment is we've got great numbers out there when it comes to, we're spending more money. And then we think as consumers, well, that's a good thing for the economy. When actual fact, in order for them to reduce inflation, we have to stop the spending. We've got great job numbers at the moment. So employment is up, and we're not seeing as many people unemployed. We've got 2 jobs for every person out there who's unemployed. And yet what the Feds need to see is they need that to break. So there's a couple of things that they're trying to break by increasing the Fed rates, and it's to stop the spending. So one of the questions that was posed to the Fed chair, Mr. Powell, was to do with housing. What are your plans with housing? So these were put together, these slides were put together by Stephen Thomas. He's the economist, the local economist in our area, who I refer to every single week because he certainly has his finger on the pulse of what's going on. And so we're going to read through this text, and you tell me at the end of it if you've got a clear picture of what they're trying to do with housing, because we've certainly seen what's happening with housing and that we are in an inflation. So when I say reset, and he's referring to the housing market, I'm not looking at a particular specific set of data or anything. What I am really saying is that we've had a time of a red hot housing market all over the country where, you know, famously, houses were selling to the first buyer at 10% above the ask before even seeing the house. Well, not quite sure about that, but we get the general sentiment. I don't think any of us would disagree that we have seen historic growth in the demand and sales and appreciation and prices that went just sky high with 20, 30 offers on every single property. So we don't disagree with him there. Next point. So there was a big imbalance between supply and demand. Housing prices were going up at an unsustainably fast level. So the deceleration in housing prices that we are seeing should help bring prices more closely in line with rents and other housing market fundamentals. Well, that's definitely the intent. The issue with supply and demand, of course, that's what we talk about every single week. That's why certain things are not working at the moment, because we just don't have enough inventory for some of the measures that are being taken to really have that desired effect. Deceleration in housing prices, it really depends on the market that you're in. And again, it goes back to the supply, the inventory that's sitting there right now. And that's a good thing. For the longer term, what we need is supply and demand to get better aligned so that housing prices go up at a reasonable level, at a reasonable pace, and that people can afford houses again. So we probably in the housing market need to go through a correction to get back to that place. Absolutely. Supply and demand. Right now, our demand has come down a bit, but our inventory is so low that we just cannot meet the demand that's there. Yes, we know that housing prices go up, but they can't go up as high as they have. So definitely agree with that. The big point there, that people can afford houses again, that is the biggest point right now. Because if you think about that, the interest rates have more than doubled since the beginning of the year. That means that probably that they're, more than half of the buyers who could have been looking at the beginning of the year, if they didn't buy, probably can't afford to be looking right now. Definitely cannot get what they were looking for at that point in time. Excuse me, from a business cycle standpoint, this difficult correction should put the housing market back into better balance. I think that shelter inflation is going to remain high for some time. We're looking for it to come down, but it's not exactly clear when that'll happen. It may take some time. So the concern from economists who are looking at what the chairman stated here is there's no data attached to that. And he says that right in the beginning. There's no numbers, there's no benchmark that he seems to be aiming for. And so the bottom line is that shelter inflation is going to remain high for some time. That is the reality of where we are. So it's more important than ever before to truly have a look at what's happening on the market on a weekly basis, at least. Some of us are tracking this every single day that we can, every piece of information we're trying to put in, because none of what we're seeing right now fits in anybody's models that they put forward at the beginning of the year or even 3 months ago. So there is a lot going on. It all has to do with every tool that they have in the Fed's tool belt right now to attack inflation is what they're doing. It's just being felt in different ways in different market sectors. And in real estate, it's a huge affordability issue with the interest rates that have gone up so high. Because, of course, the response to the interest rate, the Fed rate going up, was we definitely saw interest rates just going that little bit higher and that little bit higher, because what happened previously is they went higher and then we kind of settled down and rates came down. Because again, the Fed rate is not the same as mortgage rates. The mortgage rates respond to the Fed rates. So they've gone up again. And actually, we saw mortgage rates going up earlier last week in preparation for the announcement that then came out that the Fed had indeed increased their basis points, by the 75. Okay, so our biggest issue, the desired impact of increasing the interest rates was to reduce the demand and then have enough inventory that would then accumulate, that would settle, and then that would force the prices to go down. Our problem is we have started all of this and we have been in this declining inventory environment since basically 2014. Even before that, we've shown you graphs on previous Mondays that really show how our inventory's gone down. So we just don't have enough inventory in most of our markets to really have that desired impact. So we're still seeing that latent demand, and I'll address that a little bit later and share with you what we're seeing in our local markets as far as that's concerned. So biggest issue, supply and demand. There's still latent demand that's there, and we just don't have enough inventory. So that's keeping those prices higher than where the Feds would like to see them. And the demand is enough that there are still buyers out there who do need to buy for various reasons. We just need more sellers who are willing to put their homes on the market. The other issue that we have, and again, we looked at that in previous sessions, is we have a shortage of new construction. So this was just a quick headline from Housing Wire. Housing completion data is now savagely unhealthy. At the peak of 2005, we had about 2.24 million housing completions in the monthly report. Today, we are at 1.3. So think about, we've got even fewer new construction. New construction is what really saw us through the Great Recession, 2008, 2009, and that helped because there was so much inventory out there that really helped temper the housing prices. We just don't have that at the moment. So, and then on top of that, the shortage of resale listings, the shortage of new construction, we have a larger buyer pool with our millennials than ever before. So it's that perfect storm. And it's really interesting to see how all of this is going to roll out at the end of the day. So let's have a look locally. Interest rates, it's always good to shop around. And I'm going to tell you, for every buyer out there, it is really in your best interest to get recommendations from a real estate expert, to those around our area who are closing deals, who are working with buyers, have got solid programs, but shop around. And it's not just the interest rate. Really look at that, the terms of the loan, so that you can understand what it is that you're signing up for. So this is United American. These are their interest rates that they sent out last Friday. They do that. It's amazing. So when we're working with buyers over the weekend, we've got some latest, greatest numbers. So you can see what those rates are. And they're definitely up. Very hard to find things that are lower. Now, one of the things I will say is, and I don't have it on that one, but adjustable rate mortgages are definitely an option. And we have seen some that are still sitting in the 5s. Current mortgage rates, and this was again the 24th, and this is from Wells Fargo. So just to give you an idea of the differences, and here they've quoted what their rates would be for their jumbo and their adjustable rate mortgages. And if you're not sure if that would benefit you or not, we can definitely put you in contact with one of our loan specialists. And of course, you always have the option of who you choose to finance your loan. We just want to make sure that we give you the names of those that we know are closing deals, are really good at providing the education that you need and the support that you need during the process, because a lender can quote you all sorts of amazing numbers at the beginning of the process. But can they actually see that all the way through, and can they get you to the closing table on time? Choice is always yours. Make educated choices is what we like to help you with. Looking at our local housing numbers, so our active inventory, as you can see, so this, the purple line is 2019. We are the orange line, 2022. So we are definitely below our inventory levels over the past 3 years. So that 3-year average is a percentage of how many more homes were on the market. So we definitely have a huge shortage. We had a little sort of lift in our numbers and we thought, great, things are going to look good. And now it's kind of leveling off. And of course, that decline that we're going into is our seasonal holiday market, where fewer families are inclined to move. So that's the reality. We just don't have enough inventory in our area to meet the demand, the latent buyer demand that's there. Speaking of demand, again, we know, so again, if we this is 2019, that's our kind of pre-COVID numbers. And this, of course, was 2020 when we hit COVID, and then nobody was looking at buying because we couldn't get out and shop for homes. Excuse me, I definitely have the allergy gremlins today. So 2022 right over here. So demand is down, and that is as a direct result of the interest rates that have gone up, because we started out the year, because there's our, January starts and we have that lull, and then all the buyers come out of the woodwork and we were doing great and we thought, yay, we've got all sorts of exciting things happening. Of course, no inventory. And then we started seeing this huge decline here, was that rapid increase in the interest rates, and it dipped all the way down, recovered a little bit, and now we're going down again. So we're going into our normal cycle of declining demand. It's just being exacerbated by the increase in the interest rate. Still enough, though, still enough latent demand that deals are happening. And then this is our days on market. So that really gives us an idea of the speed of the market. Here we are, 2022. We are still sitting in a seller's market. It's a slight seller's market. So right now, and these slides were from Thursday last week, from Stephen Thomas's report on housing update that he does. You can find that on YouTube. You can find it on Facebook. Really, really invaluable information that he shares with us. So right now we're looking at 79 days on market is our average. And again, this is an average. It's really, you have to look at your neighborhood, your city, your street, even within a neighborhood, to see how fast things are selling. Last year we were sitting at 33 days on market, so it's definitely slowed. And part of that is because the demand is down, because a lot of the buyers have said, okay, I'm priced out of the market with the interest rates, or they're just waiting to see what's going to happen. Our 3-year, oh my gosh, excuse me. But this really gives you an idea of our homes coming onto the market. So it's all about, for us in Southern California, it is all about the lack of inventory that we have right now. And this is compared to the 3-year average prior to COVID. And it really shows how far down we are when, we were hoping to be able to, and if what the feds were doing, if there was enough inventory, we should be seeing a little more coming on and staying on, and we just don't even have enough coming onto the market to even get us anywhere near any kind of balance. So we're way, way off when it comes down to inventory. And as I shared with you last week, We're working with some buyers. They've given us their search criteria, and I'm lucky, and they're looking in a very large Southern California geographic area right now. We're lucky if we see one property pop up that meets their criteria. They are qualified. They are super well qualified. They have the means. They've got a decent budget to find a really good home. They just don't have a lot of choices out there. So sellers, the buyers want your home. So just that reminder, for us to even get into a balanced market, that's 90 days. So we're still sitting around about the 79 days in a slight seller's market. So looking locally at some of our cities here, so Dana Point, our median list price is 3.9 million. Those higher end properties are staying on the market a little longer. Median price of new listings is just under 2 million. Our median days on market is 70. So it's a slight seller's advantage, seller's market. Laguna Beach. Median list price, 5.3 million. Median price of new listings, 5.1. Laguna Beach is definitely that higher priced environment. And yet the median days on market is 77. Still a seller's market in Laguna Beach. San Clemente. Median list price, 1.8. Median price of the new listings coming on, 1.9. Median days on market, 63. Seller's market, once again. San Juan Capistrano, median list price, 2.4, median price of new listings, 850,000. So that has changed. And again, remember, we've got such little inventory that all it takes is one outlier, and then and I know that's why we use the median, but it's kind of it just throws everything off because we just don't have enough properties. So we see that when we're tracking the numbers, like you'll suddenly see a big skewed number, but it's just because there's like, oh, just a few over here, as opposed to having enough to really get a good feel for that. Average days on market, 69, median days on market, 56. Because you've got a lower price point opportunity in San Juan Capistrano, that brings some of those buyers back in, and we have a strong seller's market there. So bottom line, before we go into this next slide, I wanted to share with what we're seeing when we're out there and the types of contracts that we're seeing and the terms, because we're going back to this question: who does the current real estate market favor? Is it buyers or sellers? And that's, you know, and this is an easy out, I know, but it really depends on what your motivation is. Buyers right now, the market is allowing you to have a little more of a negotiation power with sellers. So if you do find the right property, if that property is not priced at true market value right now, you're going to see that because it's going to have sat on the market for week after week after week. If it's gone beyond the norm and what's happening in that neighborhood, in that city, you know, and all the way down to the street, honestly, ocean view, non-ocean view, whatever it is, then you probably have a good chance of being able to put in an offer that's a little less than the list price, although we're still overall seeing about 99% of sale price to list price. So more sellers are realizing that if they've been sitting on the market, they're going to have to, you know, they've probably done a price reduction, maybe more than one already. The other thing that we're seeing is sellers are willing, because they're not getting 10, 20 offers, because there aren't as many buyers out there. And the buyers who are there are educated, they're savvy, and they know that they're not that desperate that they have to just choose anything and throw an offer with, you know, all the bells and whistles. So buyers, you probably have the wriggle room to ask for that termite inspection, to actually not lift every contingency in the offer. So not necessarily lifting the appraisal contingency. You're probably going to have the ability to actually have an inspection and maybe even ask for some repairs. We're seeing all of those more normal prior to the crazy hot market. We're starting to see those come back in, which is a better thing for buyers and sellers, because there really needs to be there's that philosophy. If there's something seriously wrong in the house and the sellers know it, they really should be fixing it, or it needs to be priced according to the current condition and location of the property. So buyers, yes, know your budget, know your numbers, identify your list of what you need. And as this market continues, if you're serious, just have a little bit of patience, but you are going to see a little more inventory coming on, not a tremendous amount because we're still going into that decline. Waiting may not be in your best interest. While we do see that peak at the beginning of the year, we're still going to have interest rates. And if the Feds do what they are projecting they're going to do, and they're going to increase the Fed rate, interest rates are going to follow suit. And so your interest rate is going to be a trade-off. If you wait, you may end up having to pay more for your monthly mortgage payment if you waited until the new year, where you may have more inventory. Sellers, it is still a seller's market. It is absolutely a seller's market. Yes, you will have to make some concessions. You have to go back to being a little more of a win-win situation, but there is enough latent demand out there that there are buyers. We talk about our buyers as an agent community here every single week. We still have buyers looking for the home that you're thinking of waiting to list on the market. So if you want to sell, this is a really good time before, yes, once we hit the new year, that is generally when we start seeing that little bump in inventory. So you have a better chance right now, and your buyer pool is bigger now than it could potentially be at the beginning of 2023, because if interest rates are again that much higher, then it reduces your buyer pool even more. So, it's really, what is your motivation to buy or sell? And then decide if now is the right time, because there's benefits to both right now. This is as close to a balanced market as we've seen in many, many years. And there can be wins for buyers and sellers on both sides. Gone are the days when we've had those total extremes, which are really not sustainable. And again, buyers, interest rates are not, there's no reason for them to go all the way down into the 2s or the low 3s. If we can get them to the 4s at some point in time, that would be great. So, waiting for the interest rate to drop, how long can you afford to wait? That is the big question you have to ask yourself. Sellers, if you have a need to sell, waiting could cost you. Buyers, and those opportunities to actually get a higher price, because the longer your property sits on the market, the worse it is for that sale. Just as a reminder again, for our buyers and our sellers, that look at the averages, our interest rates basically over time, and realize that yes, we are high, but we're still looking pretty good if we look at this historically. It is an affordability issue, absolutely, but figure out where your priorities are and decide if home ownership is one of those. And we know it's proven to be a great way of building wealth. And our newsletter coming out on Wednesday, we will have a great article in there about rent versus own to help you with that decision if you're looking at that. Another just reminder, mortgage debt service payment as a percentage of disposable personal income. Again, this just shows us that historically, the value of home ownership was seen as something that families felt was worthwhile when they looked at all their disposable income and decided where did they want to spend their money, and home ownership was there. We have just been absolutely spoiled, the gift of the gods, with the low interest rates, and now we're thinking, well, we just don't want to pay as much to have the homes that we really desire. And yet it's going to come down to your family priorities of what's important for you and your family. I think we've covered this. If you are in the market to either sell or buy and you want to dive into any of these numbers, we would be so honored to help you have a look locally in your community to see how your property is positioned, or if you're looking to buy, we're right there with our fingers on the pulse of what's going on. The numbers tell the story right now, and we are on top of the numbers on a daily basis to make sure we're truly tracking what's happening where. It is still a good time to be a homeowner, and we look forward to having an opportunity to sit down with you and see if this is the right time for you and how we can assist you. For us, it's all about giving you the information that you need to make informed decisions. So please feel free to reach out at any point in time. And other than that, have a fantastic week. We have summer back with a vengeance in Southern California. So to all those who can get out to the beach this week, it's going to be a wonderful time to be on the beach. And for those that can't, oh well, enjoy your time on the beach for those of us who can't. So looking forward to seeing you next week.